And now, back to Afternoons with Sofie Formica on 4BC and network stations across Australia.
The sun is shining. It's 7 minutes past 2 here at 4BC. Let us know if there's things happening out on the road or if there's a little weather in your area, 133 882. But I think those showers, well, they look like they've passed us, at least for now. Now, yesterday, I told you that beer is being earmarked as a potential solution to reducing greenhouse gas emissions. Yep, you heard me correctly. We're usually encouraged to have a beer in moderation, but one brewer is flipping that on his head, essentially saying that we can drink more without feeling guilty, and in a way, it's good for the environment. So there's a new plan by many beer makers, scientists, and the meat industry as well, hopping on to slash greenhouse emissions by reducing beer waste, which is good news. And, when it comes to livestock, we know they make up so much of our emissions. This is science from the University of Technology in Sydney. They're testing different ways that they can create livestock, for example, and feed them algae, seaweed along the way. It helps them to reduce the amount of methane that they expel. And there are brewers who are now adopting different fabulous ways to brew beer. Well, on Friday night, we raised a glass into Helios Brewery for winning the award at the annual Lord Mayor's Business Awards, and they won the award for environmental sustainability in a business category. So a massive congratulations to Scott and his team for winning this prestigious award. It celebrates the achievements of some of the most innovative, entrepreneurial and creative businesses that operate here in Brisbane, and I'm pleased to welcome Scott Schomer, who is the co-founder of Helios Brewing Company, right here to 4BC Afternoons. How are you, Scott?
I'm fantastic. Thank you so much.
Well, I mentioned there that, beer is now being looked at as a way for us to be sustainable on a global stage, and there's this work that's being done around the world, and so great that some of that work is also being done right here in our own backyard.
Well, why not? This is a very sunny place, so we have lots of natural advantages to becoming more sustainable here in Australia.
So you reduced your CO2 emissions at Helios. Can you explain how the business works and how you came up with this concept of sustainability and brewery in one sentence?
In one sentence?
No, you don't have to do it in one sentence. I'm putting those two concepts in one sentence.
When you think about climate change, we're looking at things like coffee, chocolate being very difficult to produce under climate change scenarios. And I'm not willing to give up coffee, chocolate, or beer. So I thought if we're going into the future, I better figure out how to make beer sustainably. And so I designed a brewery from the ground up to do exactly that. And we experimented on ourselves.
That is a killer combination, environmental science and beer making. What a great combo.
They actually go together quite well. There's a lot of scientists in brewing. This
is your background. You applied your experience and your expertise to be able to come up with this sustainable brewing model. Can you give away any secrets?
Yes. In fact, I give away probably most of my secrets. That's part of being sustainable. I actually want to bring people along on the journey and help other breweries and other businesses to become more sustainable.
So how do you do it?
Quite simply, we look for efficiencies. Everything in a brewery, you're either heating it up or cooling it down. And everybody throws energy, gas, electricity, steam at those systems to do that. Here in Queensland, we have just this excess solar energy. So we use that, one, solar photovoltaic, which is rather passé now. But we use that to not only heat up our operations, but we also use it to cool down about 3 tons of water. And that becomes a solar battery that stores excess solar energy as cold. And then we do the exact opposite with a solar thermal system where we heat water up to nearly a boil on the roof, no power, and we store that excess solar energy in about 3 tons of superheated water. So we have solar batteries.
And what you produce then is a beer in a can with a great label, which you've brought in for us to have a look at today. That's also one of the things that we're seeing a lot of the microbreweries now move away from glass and into aluminium cans again. Is there a shift that's going to happen more broadly?
I think so. I think every business is looking at how they can do things smarter and more sustainably. The aluminum cans is certainly one of those ways. It is far easier to recycle it, and it's far less likely to go to waste in an aluminum can.
You won this award on Friday night for the Lord Mayor's Business Awards for environmental sustainability in business. Is that a nice nod that you're on the right track?
Look, I still can't believe it. You don't get into sustainability for the attention. But it is a great nod to our little business and to the people that I have working with me that we've been recognized.
Where can people find a Helios brew?
Well, we are in a lot of independent bottle shops around town, and we are slowly moving out and about around the country. We're online, and we're at our tap room in Yurong-Pili.
Yurong-Pili is the place that you have chosen to be making your beer, but there's been a long road to get to that place. Your background is in environmental and environmental science and environmental engineering.
Yes.
What brought you to Australia?
My wife, she's also a scientist and works at UQ. She does biology and genetics. And I ended up working in the oil and gas industry, trying to push them along to become more sustainable. And cleaned up probably one too many oil spills and said, I think that there's something else I'd like to be doing. So I decided to start a brewery.
And obviously you're doing something right. Just on that, we've been talking obviously about the announcement overnight from the federal government about us reaching a net zero target. These are conversations that are obviously going to happen on the political stage over the coming months as we move into a federal election. It changes the dialogue, doesn't it?
It sure does. And I've always had these conversations over a beer with anybody who's willing to sit and listen. Becoming more sustainable is one of those things where it goes right from the household level and personal level all the way up to the Commonwealth government. And I'm a firm believer, and I said so the other night to all the captains of industry, that businesses are probably going to lead this charge, and they can do so and be more profitable. And there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're a laggard in business or in government, don't expect to be out in front. So these are very active conversations that are being held at all levels. And there are quite a few politicians that come and have a drink at Helios, and we chat about these things.
Yeah, it's that whole thing of we want to see economic prosperity, we want to see people in jobs, we want to see growth, and we want to see opportunity. It's just what this transition looks like into new technologies.
But look, we are basically at a new industrial revolution, and if you are going to take advantage of that and be out front of that, there are huge amounts of jobs. There's lots of money to be made. But if you don't invest in that future, where are we going to be? So I actually flip the climate change and sustainability thing on its head and actually try and present kids and adults and politicians alike and say, look, there are actually massive opportunities to be had. And Helios is just a tiny business, but we're a good example of how we just thought outside the box, and we are more sustainable, but we're also able to weather things like COVID and those downturns because our costs are so much lower. So there's serious economic and commercial advantages to doing it. And we need to bring the government along and help them realize that as well.
I think that's the beginning of the conversation. Scott Schomer, can I just say congratulations once again for winning your award for Helios Brewery. You are in Yurong-Pili. If anybody would like to come and visit you, they can do that. They can also shop online. And I think the other thing that you mentioned there about businesses taking and leading the charge, and so many businesses here in Queensland doing exactly that, the fact that you're all happy to share your experiences and the wins that you're having in this space is really positive.
Yeah. And each Sunday between now and the end of the COP26, we're going to have little discussions over beers at the brewery about climate change and sustainability. So I encourage anybody that wants to have those conversations, come on in.
There you go. Google Helios and Scott will be more than happy to answer questions for you. You are on Afternoons, the new 882 4BC. Always welcome to share your thoughts and opinions as well. 133 882 is the open line number.
You're listening to Afternoons with Sofie Formica on Brisbane's 4BC.
And I just had Scott Schomer in from Helios Brewery talking about their microbrewery here in Brisbane. And a couple of you have called and sent texts in asking about how to spell it. And my apologies for not considering that it's not an easy one to figure out. It's Helios. Helios, Helios Brewery, and you will find them at Eurongapilly.